A lot of people were acting some sort of way during this Charlie Kirk murder preliminary trial. There was a lot of stuff going down that made us feel like, what the fuck was that? But nobody really made us feel as off as the first cop on the scene. This first cop seemed to have gotten the last laugh because the closer we look at Officer Bagley, the stranger his story gets. And when you find out about this man's next chapter, it's going to surprise you and it's going to raise some serious questions. So, one of the first officers to respond after the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk was Officer Christopher Bagley. As one of the earliest officers on the scene, his one job, was to preserve the crime scene. It was also to document evidence and maintain the chain of custody. I've watched enough true crime to know this. Chris Bagley, however, didn't. One job, one man, and he blew it. He was supposed to ensure investigators had reliable information, and he had among one of the most important responsibilities in those first few critical moments, and he blew it. And since then, questions have been raised about parts of the initial response, including reported issues with the body camera footage and evidence documentation. We've covered those in great detail. Those questions alone make Bagley's role worth examining. And I'm going to show you exactly why his career deserves a closer look as we're getting new information. Because when you line up the timeline of publicly available information and records, and when you find out what he's doing next, that deserves scrutiny. I'm going to let you decide what you think. And again, if you're new here, I'm Lauren Paritra. Willa Paritra and we do this every single day out of pure principle and an absolute refusal to let people like Stephen Miller get away with Stephen Millering. And I have to give you a little reminder here that Stephen Miller is unaccounted for. He has slithered out of a Turning Point USA leadership summit sometime in the early morning hours, and he was drinking condensation off of a wine cooler that Benny Johnson had left behind. So subscribing, it kind of acts like a shock collar to him. It's a little cruel and definitely not something we'd ever use on animals, but it's the only thing that really gets him in line. So we've tried everything else. Subscribe, hit that follow button across social, find us wherever you get your podcast, leave us a comment, 6 words or more, hype this video. All of these individual actions help keep Stephen Miller in line. So listen, this case is crazy and most people on the internet don't buy any of it. People are now piecing together photos of Tyler Robinson alongside photos taken allegedly from the crime scene, from surveillance, and they're calling out a lot of things. One in particular, they are showing photos that are a side-by-side of Tyler Robinson and Twigs. And they're saying, I'm completely convinced that Lance, who is Twigs, set up Tyler Robinson in a lot of ways. There's a lot of comments on, was his video AI? Was he flirting with somebody off camera? There was just a lot of weird interactions. And then people are also putting together side-by-side photos of Tyler Robinson's hair. You can see in a surveillance video photo screen grab from the scene of the crime, you can see that the back of his head has a little bit of a tail. And then when you look at another image, there is no tail. And these images are taken allegedly within 33 hours of one another. I know it takes longer to grow hair than that. And then we have, of course, Candace commenting on Tyler Robinson's height discrepancy, saying, one glance and common sense is all it really took. But great work hustling to the location to show the height disparity. I will keep asserting my viewpoint that they have had multiple decoys on the ground that day for this military operation. So a lot of people are claiming that Tyler Robinson was a patsy, is a patsy, or a Mossad, or that his boyfriend, roommate, lover is a Mossad. There's a lot of theory swirling, but overall, people do not buy this case. There was so much bizarre behavior out of the court. So what does this all have to do with Officer Bagley? I'm going to show you. And first, look at this video of Tyler Robinson, who allegedly met up with a Turning Point representative. It's unclear who, but it was brought up in the court that he had interacted with them the day of the murder in the morning.
Where does he go from there?
He heads out of the parking garage on foot into the campus. And actually goes to the quad area of the campus. At that time, he makes contact with some representatives from TPUSA.
I'm here interviewing one of the employees that met Tyler Robinson on the night of September the 10th around 9 p.m. here at Cowboys Smokehouse in Panguitch, Utah.
I was working here. I remembered him coming in, sitting at the bar. He ordered a steak, a couple beers. After I'd notified my boss, we reached out to the authorities. He contacted the FBI. They got our contact information, but we never heard anything from them.
You never heard back from the FBI after you reported it?
Never heard anything. And that's kind of what prompted me to send it in. It just didn't sit right with me.
And how certain are you that it was Tyler Robinson that you saw?
100%.
So you can see a lot of people closely connected to Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA acting some sort of way. So there's a lot of situations. Obviously, this was a hugely traumatic event for anyone there, but what does it all have to do with Bagley? And why are people asking so many questions? Real quick, today's episode is brought to you by Brickhouse Nutrition. Everyone's talking about weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering your blood sugar and reducing your appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight, but you're not interested in those painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? Well, that's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it to energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. And let's get you started today with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. You can visit takelean.com and enter code Lauren, that's Loren, for your discount. That's promo code Lauren at takelean.com. What makes the timeline even more interesting here is, listen, we know Bagley showed up on the scene and blew his job of preserving evidence. He saw a gun holster on the ground and just left it because he had already mentally, allegedly clocked that Charlie Kirk was shot with a rifle. Unclear how he knew this, because if they knew it, why didn't they get Tyler Robinson? There's a lot of unanswered questions. He also had his body camera footage die. And when he was asked questions during the testimony, he was just acting in a way that just felt very unprepared, very full of shit.
All right, your body cam footage that I reviewed appears to end while you're still on the roof. Do you know why that is?
I think the battery went dead. It was just right at that moment.
Okay.
He spent, before this job, a UVU officer on campus, he spent more than 2 decades in law enforcement, and he was reportedly earning less than $45,000 a year while working at Utah Valley University. Then, around the end of January or beginning of February, he left for the Spanish Fork Police Department and became a senior officer, a position that appears to pay substantially more depending on rank and classification. This is the timeline you need to see, because based on publicly available salary ranges, his compensation may have increased dramatically. And thinking back to the time when I went to college, I went to a liberal arts college in Florida. All of our campus officers were retired police officers. They were snowbirds that had moved down from New York and had retired from their career as a cop, and then became university officers. I graduated college in 2011, so there was a lot less violence, or at a lesser frequency than there is now. So it was, I'd assume, a more chill job that you can kind of skirt around in until going on to retire. He's kind of doing it the other way. Standing alone, this promotion doesn't prove anything, but there can be many legitimate reasons for a career move. When, however, somebody played a significant role in the initial response to one of the most closely watched homicide investigations right now, and they objectively blew it, and then they receive a really significant, really substantial career advancement right afterwards, I think it's fair for us to ask some questions here. That invites some questions naturally. So let's walk through the records, the dates, and the documents, and you can decide for yourself whether you think this is a normal promotion or not. So in here, it says open payments, Chris Bagley, 2022, role, police officer, public safety, Utah Valley University, UVU. So he worked as a police officer for Utah Valley University, and in 2022 had a reported pay of $43,000 and some change, according to public records. This is a 42.4% lower pay than the average pay for university and college employees. 40% lower than the national average for government employees. He had 25 to 26 years of experience, and he was making less than $45,000. And this is not meant to be a debate on appropriate pay and compensation. I think we should pay teachers a whole lot fucking more if you were to ask. But how did he go from being making that 40% less than the average, to then go on to be a patrol officer level 2, which comes with an average salary of $90,000 to $120,000? Or if he was a master patrol officer, which is a crazy name, $125K to $150K. So he did this after about 26 years as a police officer. And then he went on to suddenly double, possibly even triple his salary. So the benefit calculations too, and this is info shared with us by a creator on Twitter, Sam Parker. He's probably making, again, more than double after 25 years of service and after blowing it on the most important job day of his career ever. So feels really convenient. Make of it what you will. A lot of people don't have proper theories here, but they've been digging more closely, and it just feels a little uncommon for somebody to be so behind and then after 25 years suddenly get promoted to in the same line of work, almost tripling. And if you remember Officer Wyatt Goforth, he allegedly stopped Tyler Robinson at 12:30 a.m. on the 11th in Orem. And using his cop's intuition, that's an air quote, I'm making an air quote here, because that's what he said.
When that vehicle was stopped, it actually made contact with an officer who was doing security detail.
Okay, and do you know who that officer is?
Officer Goforth,
Okay, and do you know which department he works for?
Spanish Fork Police.
And did you have a conversation with Mr. Goforth regarding this interaction at that intersection?
I did, yes.
Okay, and what time was that interaction? I'm sorry, did I ask you that?
It was approximately 12:30 a.m.
Okay. On the 11th?
on September 11th, 2025. Correct.
And what did Officer Goforth tell you about that interaction?
It was an interaction that I guess cop intuition, but there was something about the interaction that made him make a note of the license plate of the vehicle.
Officer Goforth is also with Spanish Fork PD. So he was out of his jurisdiction, which is weird. He's also a K-9 unit officer, but then finally, 8 minutes after that alleged 12:30 a.m. interaction, that's when the 12:38 a.m. interaction happens on the Ring doorbell. And the nobles see the gray Challenger. And then that's the part where Hall says that he didn't say that the driver had been a bald guy with 3 passengers, but somebody said that, and the defense attorney, Catherine Nestor, called him out on it. Well, if there was a bald guy with 3 passengers driving in the car at 12:38 a.m., how is it that Officer Goforth spoke with Tyler alone in the car just 8 minutes prior? It's very interesting, and there's possibly a Spanish Fork PD connection that ties into Bagley. So a lot of interesting things happening here, and we are going to stay digging in here because what is going on? Something's not adding up. And we know in LA and in many cities, cops run their circles and they run their little mafia spiels. If you want to know more, if you want to hear more about the theories that are swirling online, hit subscribe. We can only keep up with this with your support. So give us a like, comment, share, find us wherever you get your podcast, and we'll be back with more.